Is there any connection between profitability and the format so that you could say, guys, invest in townhouses, it's the most profitable type of real estate in Bali? Or again, everything should be analyzed comprehensively, and it is not possible to make a clear statement. Only apartments or only villas or only townhouses?
Yes, good question. There is probably no simple answer here, as it really needs to be considered comprehensively. And everything should be analyzed comprehensively, because some people do choose townhouses, but they are cheaper, for example, than villas. However, according to our statistics, it remains consistent over time that 2 to 3 bedroom villas. Even 3-bedroom comes out ahead. A villa, yes, specifically a villa. It doesn't have a large plot of land. It could literally be 100 or 200 square meters.
The villa is on a couple of 100 square meters, plus another 100 square meters of land.
Well, yes, there's essentially a small garden there. And the pool, well, privacy is the most important thing now. Privacy is key. It still remains a favorite in terms of return on investment, ROI. This shows the highest value so far. That large number of apartments just hasn't been built yet, that are planned to be built in Bali. Yes, the main thing is that they all absolutely get completed there. Then we'll see how these apartments will compete with each other once they are completed.
And let's see how large the target audience will be that chooses apartments.
Yes. This also remains in question, because right now there are very few apartments built for the time being. Yes, and whoever builds first will probably do well, yes. And then we'll see. And still, people, indeed, actually, you are absolutely right, associate that if I am going to rent an apartment not in a hotel, but somewhere on Airbnb, it is more likely to be a villa or some townhouse with a small, cozy pool. If it's cheaper, people choose differently. And if we look at 1-bedroom properties, for example, townhouses or apartments, the same, yes. Lots. It is important to understand that there is direct competition with hotels. And there are a lot of hotels, several thousand hotels. And here people will choose, why do they need some? A 1-bedroom apartment or I stay in a hotel. It's about the same. You can even find rooms with a kitchen.
Well, as far as I know, all the apartments are now being serviced like an apart hotel. That there is already hotel service to have some competitive advantage.
Yes, meaning they are closer to hotels.
Just if we are already talking about a villa, then why don't people choose a villa? What we see is that a person simply has, for example, $150,000 available. And besides, he feels more comfortable investing money in installments, yes, and accordingly, he simply cannot afford a villa at the moment, and a decent 2 to 3-bedroom villa costs, well, to be honest, a minimum of $250,000, $300,000 plus. Yes, if we are talking about a good location, a nice complex with some infrastructure and a concept, it's $300,000 plus. Therefore, the audience that can afford a villa. For $300,000, less than the audience that can afford an apartment for. $120,000 to $130,000 in installments with a down payment of $30,000. And this is where you need to. So how can we help this audience? For example, they have $150,000 and they want to take out an installment plan with a down payment of $30,000 to $50,000. What should they pay attention to? So, do you see that the hotel type still has an advantage over just bare apartments?
The hotel type, yes, hotels also sell their rooms. Yes, of course, indeed. So you can definitely go there too. But usually the price goes up if it's a chain hotel. Well, of course, yes, if there are certain budget constraints. And in this case, villas do not fit into this category, so naturally you need to consider and compare where I will get the return on investment, ROI, with this amount of money. Well, yes, I might get a return that is 1 to 2% lower than if it were a villa, but the ROI. But then you need to choose either apartments or townhouses. And to look, but here it is important to understand well the location, because developers all want to sell and they highlight the positives as much as possible. You need to look at it from your own perspective, take a closer look. We perform several calculations on a regular basis per week for developers and their complexes, and various complex projects. Profitability. Then they base their packaging on these numbers. They look at which numbers to use or not to use. Additionally, we are frequently approached by regular real estate buyers who want to evaluate this apartment and this townhouse.
Verify the numbers. Yes.
And we simply provide based on our statistics that, look, this property costs this much. Here is how much it brought in over the past year, and here is a similar one. They can verify this information.
In other words, you verify various data based on your in-depth statistics and analytics. Great, that's really cool. But if we talk about the key mistakes that developers make when implementing their projects. So just like this 1, 2, 3, 4, from an investor's perspective, what should they pay attention to first and foremost? He entered the market. Of course, he can turn to real estate agencies, including ones like mine, and we will provide guidance. But if we set aside all that history, what would you recommend paying attention to? Here is a checklist that we can provide to our audience right now. For developers. First for developers, then for investors. But essentially, it's the same thing. The factors that a developer pays attention to should also be considered by an investor.
But they still have different sources of income. Agreed. The main thing for a developer is to sell and build a new one. Here is what developers should definitely pay attention to. Of course, as we mentioned, location. Exact location, exactly. Next is the concept. Many are building just to build the maximum number of properties on this piece of land to maximize profitability. Reduce the price per square meter, and that's all. And accordingly. And now, since there are indeed many projects and there is competition, it is necessary to think about the concept.